I want you to take a look at this photo. This photo is from outside the debate from the Florida's governor's race tonight. One supporter of Republican candidate Ron DeSantis carrying a sign that says, "Democrats, fake news, fake bombs." Wonder where she got that idea.
And take the grace and take the opportunity to be better. I love you.
Thank you, brother. Love
Have
you.
a good night and a good show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Be careful. Okay, so here we go. This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon. Today, as everyone knows, we got a pipe bomb that was sent right here to CNN. Similar devices, let's call them exactly what they are. They are bombs sent to two former presidents, former Secretary of State, a United States Congresswoman, a former CIA director, and a former Attorney General. So let's call them what they are, assassination attempts. So where is the President of the United States tonight? He's at a political rally. He's at a rally in Wisconsin. He's firing up his base as usual, incredibly blaming the victim, the media.
As part of a larger national effort to bridge our divides and bring people together, the media also has a responsibility to set a civil tone and to stop the endless hostility and constant negative and oftentimes false attacks and stories. Have to do it.
He just can't help himself. Someone, as I have been saying, could have been killed today, here or at any of the other locations. Someone totally innocent. And he is blaming the media for being hostile, for being negative, spreading lies. He says that falsely. This is what the president always does. He deflects. Deflection. The president is hostile toward anyone who doesn't agree 100% with him. He is frequently negative. And no one ever in public office has told more lies. Yes, the president read scripted remarks tonight and this afternoon, and he seemed to say the right things. But let's look at them in the context of the totality of his actions and his words.
I want to begin tonight's rally by addressing the suspicious devices and packages that were mailed to current and former high-ranking government officials.
Current and former ranking government officials? He couldn't even name Barack Obama or Bill and Hillary Clinton. Maybe we shouldn't be surprised. We know he regularly trashes Hillary Clinton at his political rallies. He never misses a chance to diss Obama. In fact, two officials telling CNN tonight that the president did not even bother to reach out to Obama or the Clintons or others. Didn't even bother, even as a courtesy or to update them on the status of this investigation. But the right thing, making this promise.
My highest duty, as you know, as president, is to keep America safe. That's what we talk about. That's what we do. The federal government is conducting an aggressive investigation, and we will find those responsible, and we will bring them to justice, hopefully very quickly.
And earlier today at the White House, it was the right thing to do to say this.
I just want to tell you that in these times, we have to unify.
Unity is not the word that comes to mind with this president, especially when it comes to the targets of the bombs. Not only Obama and the Clintons and CNN, but former Attorney General Eric Holder, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, former CIA Director John Brennan, and businessman George Soros. Listen to some of the unifying comments he's made.
Fake as hell, CNN. The worst.
Hillary's a very dishonest person. If you look at the things she says, I mean, they're so dishonest.
I think Brennan's a very bad guy, and if you look at it, a lot of things happened under his watch. I think he's a very bad person.
And of course, the legendary low IQ Maxine Waters. Low IQ person.
It was very polarized under President Obama, unbelievably polarized under President Obama.
They'll go to a person holding a sign who gets paid by Soros or somebody.
Today, President Trump also said this.
We have to come together and send one very clear, strong, unmistakable message that acts or threats of political violence of any kind have no place in the United States of America.
So hearing a statement like that, hearing that statement, you have to ask, who are you and what have you done with President Trump? Well, unfortunately, Donald Trump brought his campaign rallies into the gutter, advocating violence while running for president. Remember when he said this?
I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. The guards are very gentle with him. He's walking out like big high fives, smiling, laughing. Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you. If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees. I promise. I promise. Get him out. Try not to hurt him. If you do, I'll defend you in court. Don't worry about it. Part of the problem and part of the reason it takes so long is nobody wants to hurt each other anymore. There are no consequences to protesting anymore. There used to be consequences. I would have been out there fighting, folks. I don't know if I would have done well, but I would have been boom, boom, boom. I'll beat that.
I can hear the chorus of defenders now. They're saying this. That was political theater. He wasn't the president then. He doesn't really mean it. Or what about the rally just last week, the one where he praised Montana Congressman Greg Gianforte, who as a candidate body slammed a reporter just for asking a question about health care?
Any guy that can do a body slam, he's my kind of... He's my guy. I shouldn't say this because there's nothing to be embarrassed about. So I was in Rome with a lot of the leaders from other countries talking about all sorts of things, and I heard about it. And we endorsed Greg very early, but I had heard that he body slammed a reporter. And I said, oh, this is terrible. He's going to lose the election. Then I said, well, wait a minute. I know Montana pretty well. I think it might help him, and it did.
I want you to listen now to what my colleague Jim Acosta, who was covering the rally, said about that.
When the president made that joke about Greg Gianforte assaulting Ben Jacobs, I looked over to the crowd. There was one gentleman, a Trump supporter in the crowd, who was doing pro wrestling moves, doing body slam type gestures in the crowd. So the crowd was obviously eating this stuff up, and people wonder whether or not there's a cause and effect, whether or not the president's rhetoric, plants seeds of violence in his own supporters, in his own crowds. I think it was pretty evident there that the crowd was loving every minute of this when the president was talking about joking about assaulting reporters at this rally tonight.
And at tonight's Wisconsin rally, President Trump said this about the current state of politics.
There's much we can do to bring our nation together. For example, those engaged in the political arena must stop treating political opponents as being morally defective.
You know, that's an interesting concept because at his campaign rallies, the president normally says this about Democrats.
I need your help this election day, November 6th, to stop the radical Democrat mob in their quest for power. The radical Democrats have turned into an angry mob. You don't hand matches to an arsonist, and you don't give power to an angry left-wing mob, and that's what the Democrats have become.
Some in the right-wing media, well, they are already spreading the idea that the bombing attempts are a plot by Democrats to shore up their base before the midterm elections. Seems to be taking root. I want you to take a look at this photo. This photo is from outside the debate from the Florida's governor's race tonight. One supporter of Republican candidate Ron DeSantis carrying a sign that says, Democrats, fake news, fake bombs. Wonder where she got that idea. Sad state of affairs right now. I want to bring in now CNN White House correspondent Caitlin Collins, who is in Wisconsin, and senior justice correspondent Evan Perez as well, who joins us from Washington, D.C. Good evening to both of you. Caitlin, first, what can you tell us about the reaction of the president in the White House tonight from the White House? What's going on?
Well, inside the White House, they are really trying to separate the president from anything to do with these attacks today, Don. We've seen that multiple times. We've had multiple calls from White House officials saying the president has nothing to do with this. His rhetoric has nothing to do with this. They are trying to put as much distance between that as they can. And they're saying essentially that what the president has said before, those clips that you just showed, are not the reason some crazy person did what they did today, or crazy people did what they did today. Now, the president sought to come out here. He called for unity. He said whoever is responsible for this, he wants to bring them to justice. But a lot of people are also focusing on what he turned to there at the end when he went after the media, saying they need to be the ones who set the tone, who are civil, and don't publish false attacks on him. Of course, Don, we have known for the last 2 years that we've covered President Trump that he often reads any kind of reporting on him that is any way negative as false. Not as accurate, but he just believes it is false, that is the media pitted against him. And that's what we saw reflected in those remarks tonight. But then, Don, later on, we did see a more subdued President Trump. For the first time in a very long time, as someone who comes to these rallies pretty frequently, President Trump did not bring up Hillary Clinton, someone he often brings up during these rallies, where you often hear the crowd chant, "Lock her up." And we did hear the crowd chant that when earlier speakers were here tonight before President Trump got on stage. That didn't happen tonight. We also didn't hear the CNN sucks chant, which has become something that happens regularly at these rallies whenever the president typically points to the media, those who are back here in the back of the room, talks about fake news, goes on his usual rant against the media. That was also absent tonight. And Don, he kept repeatedly pointing out that he was on his best behavior, saying, look how nice I'm being, look what I'm doing, because he did have a more subdued tone during his remarks tonight.
Evan Perez, breaking tonight, also authorities are seeking a suspicious package addressed to former Vice President Joe Biden. What can you tell us about that?
That's right, Don. The authorities are actually trying to track down a package that was addressed to Joe Biden, and it apparently got returned because it was misaddressed. There was a mistake on the address, or it was incorrectly addressed. And so now the authorities are trying to track that package down because, in retrospect, it appears to match some of the characteristics of the other devices that have now been confirmed as pipe bombs. So that's what's going on at this point. The authorities there in Delaware, at the home of the former vice president, actually went there to his house to see if they could find anything. There was no device there found, no package was found there, but it is something that is still being looked at, still being investigated because of the concern that there could be a package somewhere that, again, matches the description and the characteristics of these other pipe bombs that we've seen now in the last couple of days.
Speaking of the other pipe bombs, what else are we learning about the bombs?
So we've learned that the devices have a lot of things in common. They obviously bore the label of Deborah Wasserman Schultz as an address. There you see a picture of an X-ray. This is an X-ray that was described to me earlier today by law enforcement. You see some wires. What I'm told is what they found, at least in analysis of the initial bombs, is they found some kind of a sulfur material inside. That is the material that would have actually exploded. There's also, at least in one of the devices that they examined so far, Don, they found shards of glass. So whoever put this together was trying to make them perhaps even more deadly by putting projectiles into the devices. Now, these are rudimentary, crude devices. It's, whoever made this perhaps could have gotten a recipe for this off the internet. But make no mistake, these are real devices, and they could have hurt somebody. And as you pointed out, they may have been addressed to John Brennan or to somebody else, but these are typically handled by mail carriers, clerks in the mailrooms. So someone could have gotten hurt, and that is a great big concern for the authorities that are investigating this tonight, that somebody could get hurt, perhaps because there's additional other devices that are still making their way through the system, through the mail, and could show up in the next couple of days, Don.
just because they're crude doesn't make them any less potent. Exactly. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Caitlin. I appreciate your reporting this evening. We're going to discuss Trump's condemnation of political violence after spending years stoking it right after this break.